Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I'm Ben. I'm joined here by Brian, and we are here to break down the finale of Survivor 42. Another season in the books.
Yes, we did it. Congratulations, Marianne. We felt confident that she would pull it out, but I also picked Zach to be the winner, so, who knows what was going to happen. Um, I'm happy for her. This is a really good season in my book, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we also were pretty confident that Omar was going to win up until the final six when he was blindsided. Um,
Yep.
and after that, we were all like, oh, obviously at this point it's Marianne.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say as far as finales go, pretty predictable from what we would have expected. I think the only thing that was unpredictable for me was the challenge outcomes. I would say like the two challenge outcomes and the fire baking challenge outcome were all pretty unpredictable. Uh, but as far as the boot order and the ultimate winner result, pretty lining up with my expectations.
No, same here. Yeah, I thought Jonathan would win the fire making challenge. He did not. Obviously, the sim motion, which ironic that Marianne says, I've watched every episode of Survivor except the last 6 episodes of Token Genes. But this did show up in other seasons, but it's just funny because this is, in my mind, very much associated with Token Genes because it's the first time it showed up.
Mhm. Yeah, and obviously like the Steven versus JT showdown in that challenge is super iconic
Yeah.
in
Oh
terms
my
of like
God.
yeah.
Jeff asked the contestants, who do you think of when you see this challenge? And I would have messed that question up because he was looking for who back home the contestants think of, and I
Oh,
would have been
I
like
just had JT.
Stephen Fishback
Oh, yeah.
blowing it. It would be like, okay, that's nice, but can you please be a real person for a second, not a fucking nerd?
Yeah. I guess before we get there though, we have to do a little bit of examination. The final five does here after getting back to camp after the Omar blindside. Uh, all of them except for Lindsay are pretty just like jovial and like
Mm-hmm.
very like pleased with themselves that they pulled this off.
Yeah,
Whereas Lindsay is very not.
yeah. I guess as they should be. They pulled it. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing from this was just so what Jonathan was saying is right. He was being a dick about it though,
Yeah.
by being like, "You vote for me, you vote for me." Like he could have easily been like, "Look, I'm sorry that you were on the wrong side of this, but you were trying to get me off, so I don't feel bad that you're on the wrong side of it." But yeah, I mean, not a great look for really anybody, least of all Jonathan. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that happens a lot in Survivor, way more than it should, from like a Lindsay perspective here, of a player coming back after being blindsided and directing the anger of the blindside at the person that they were trying to vote out and failed.
Yeah.
And it's just not like it's never like you can be emotionally correct in terms of like feeling hurt and left out of the loop or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but you're never going to like get 100% of the in the right points
No.
if the person you're directing your anger at is the one that you were trying to vote out. So they definitely, I think both were semi in the wrong here in terms of how this was handled.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Jonathan couldn't have. He could have not been in the wrong. He just had to be a dick about it.
Yeah, yeah,
But, yeah.
yeah. No, Lindsay was incorrect, but mostly cordial about him being incorrect
Mm,
and was expressing you know real frustration in the fact that she's aware that she's probably the next person to go at this point.
mm,
Uh, and that she like massively screwed up by
mm.
cockily not playing her idol, and et cetera, et cetera. Whereas Jonathan is in the right in terms of what he's saying, but he's just going about it in the worst way. So
Yeah. Oh man, Survivor. It's
yep.
fun.
And this leads into the predicted segment from the preview that mirrors the final five from season 41 that we saw coming of like, oh, there's no way they're introducing an idol. Oh, it's definitely the situation they did last season, which is it's a challenge advantage for the final 5.
Mm-hmm.
The same exact puzzle too, basically.
Same exact one. Yeah, I texted you last night during it. I probably wouldn't have, unless like Lindsay, where she just had a lot of time to search the whole island. I don't think I would have necessarily perceived that rock formation to be a foot. I don't know about anyone else out there. Yeah, obviously when they draw a foot around it, it's like, okay, I guess that looks like a foot, but it itself does not, to me, look that much like a foot.
Yeah, I was wondering whether Lindsay only got it because the camera kept on panning back and forth through it, like, huh? This
Mm-hmm.
one? This one? And Lindsay's like, I don't know. I don't think that's really going to be it. And then the camera was like, And then Lindsay's like, let me go check again.
I mean, I think it was Malcolm talked about that on a podcast that you can kind of play hot and cold with production with finding idols based on how into filming they are while you're looking. So that definitely could be the case here as well.
Yeah, 100%. And look, let's be clear. Well, Lindsay was going to find like if anything, the production just kind of did us a favor for speeding up the segment.
Yeah. So she finds an advantage, which it was like she has less knots to untie. Honestly, didn't really come that into play.
Well, okay. Another thing too is what are your thoughts on Lindsay having to explicitly call out that she has an advantage and play it rather than Jeff calling it out himself?
Oh, I hardly even noticed that. I think I mean I think it should just be an automatic thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, which one of you found the advantage?
Yeah.
And her being like, I did. You know?
Yeah, I agree. When it's like a thing that can only be used at a certain time, and it's a thing that all of the players have knowledge of being in existence, right? I don't know why, Lindsay has to be the one to break the flow of the challenge explanation.
Yeah.
And
It's not like Adam Klein's steal a reward thing where no one knows he has it. So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess if you're like a quiet person who's afraid of putting their hand up and saying, "Hey, what about my advantage, Jeff? I spent an hour looking in the woods for the sleeping giant that is like a rock formation that you can sort of draw a foot around, and it wasn't even on it; it was like around the corner on the ground."
I know it wasn't even on the toes. It's very weird.
What about that, Jeff? And I don't know. I thought it was weird. It kind of like it. I noticed it. Like it was weird enough to me that it stood out, at least.
Yeah. I feel like I would just come back to camp and be like, I found it because there's nothing anyone can do about it. So here it is, and then I'd go to the challenge with it in my hands. Like, here you go, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Mr. Jeff.
Mr. Jeff.
Yeah.
A challenge advantage. What I do want to talk about in this challenge, one, love this. Love the big builds. Wish we saw more of these, but we don't really see those post-merge too much anymore. There were a couple this season, in fairness, but a lot of just standing in one place challenges. Also, I think the way that Lindsay and Mike built the puzzles was the least efficient way, right? You kind of want to build it and then finish up here like it's a capstone, rather than fighting to get your pieces in the middle of the puzzle when it's obviously going to sag in on itself if there's nothing to hold it out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I can understand the instinct from puzzle building perspective of like, oh, you want to get the edges first and then the middle, but that doesn't really work super duper well on a standing puzzle like this. Yeah.
That's the difference. It's a standing puzzle, so it's not like normal puzzles. It doesn't matter. Even the fire version of this, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. But this particular thing, I'm watching it. I'm like, well, it's obviously he's gonna like contract, and then yeah, it did, and then it's gonna be hard for them to put it in. I don't know. I guess that's what they want, right?
I guess it was kind of awkward. Like Mike's puzzle was like barely put together when he
That's
won.
the thing too. Like, it's like, well, good enough.
Yeah, who rule? Like, I guess like all the pieces are vaguely in the right spot, and it's standing there and not falling apart. Is like the win condition.
Yeah, because yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. There were a lot of jagged in
yeah,
and out pieces on that.
yeah. Yeah. I don't. I guess. Yeah. I noticed that too. I was like, why are they building it like this? And why is the challenge designed in a way where this is like possible? And like
Right.
obviously it was still a fun challenge, and like it was really cool for it to come down to it being that neck and neck. It's nice when somebody wins a challenge advantage and it doesn't like automatically win them the challenge,
Right.
even though Lindsay was obviously very close. And then obviously like Mike after, like him being so visibly happy to just be on Survivor and winning an indie challenge that late in the game. Yeah, I love that.
No, it was good. It was definitely good. Yeah, and I guess the next segment is gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, which understandable, and I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, just playing every possible card, right? As it gets brought up later by Romeo and the Tribal Council, it's like Lindsay Colon the fighter, where she's gonna try, hey, she's gonna throw everything at the wall to make sure that she, isn't losing by not trying. Yeah.
I think what's kind of interesting. So a lot of times, and I guess even in this instance, like the final five or final four is like the winner has one last dragon to slay.
Yep.
And in this instance, it was Lindsay, but it almost also was, and Marianne brought this up in her final tribal council. Her bigger like dragon to slay was her own like propensity to self sabotage by bringing Lindsay with her to the final four when she knew Lindsay had the best chance of anyone else to beat her.
Mhm.
So I'm proud of her for as someone who also is a big fan of self sabotage. I'm proud of her for not going into that and screwing herself over potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of interesting because I've been very low on Lindsay for most of the season. I've been pretty vocal about that. I think that the show did kind of a bad job of painting her as a like jury threat. If indeed she is such a jury threat that it's correct to take her out here, which it seems like is the case. So I don't know if it's like this is actually Lindsay doing a good job of downplaying her scariness to the point where it's actually bleeding through onto the viewers, where it's making me feel like she's not that scared to take further, or if it's just that the show has done kind of a not great job of selling that by showing kind of a lot of Lindsay's faults. But
Yeah, I guess if she won, we probably would have seen a lot of the faults. Right, they would have probably covered him
yeah,
up a little bit more.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, but kudos to Marianne for getting Mike to play his idol on her and not having to even use her idol. That was great.
no.
And yeah, Lindsay. I mean, decent player. Would not be surprised to see her back. We found out today that she, or rather, we found out yesterday that she was the one who got cut due to COVID at the last moment for Survivor 41 in order for Tiffany to play. So very nice. I'm kind of glad. I'm not glad that she got COVID, obviously, but I'm glad that it worked out that way because I really enjoyed Tiffany on last season, and then Lindsay was good on this season. So it all works out.
Yeah, for sure. That was really interesting little piece of insight that I didn't really expect
No.
us to get for sure. And yeah, I think that the story of Lindsay is gonna kind of end up being her getting so tunnel visioned on taking out Jonathan uh, when uh, she kind of well, one, she ultimately goes out and around where she loses the challenge to Mike and not Jonathan,
Hmm.
where Jonathan was basically out of it because he's not good at puzzles. And two, getting so in her head about getting Jonathan out in a situation where, again, as we pointed out multiple times, it just didn't really like that was never the make or break for her in the game was whether or not Jonathan was in it or not. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Jonathan was her white whale, and
yep,
or her Joe Anglem, uh,
yep,
as to bring it back around to Fishback.
yeah. To Brian's just like bashing on Fishback 1.0 and 2.0 here, just pointing out all of his flaws.
Listen, I view Fishback as a kindred spirit, and I feel I would do very similar things in
Yeah,
if I ever played Survivor. So it's not hate so much as seeing someone who is similar to me
yeah,
on the show.
yeah. No, obviously, I'm a also a big Fishback fan. So
Yeah,
but if you can't
we're
acknowledge it,
anti Andrew Savages here.
I don't know if I go that far. I think Savage is a really fun character.
I just meant in terms of how we feel about
Oh
Fishback.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
No, I
definitely,
love Savage as a character
yeah.
for sure.
Savage 2.0 is definitely, if anything, Savage 2.0 did what Fishback 2.0 did before he did earlier in the season, where he tunneled so hard on Fishback to the
Mm-hmm.
detriment of his social game, uh, and ended up needing Fishback as an ally. They were able to make up.
That he
He
got
got
idled
tunneled
out.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's the Lindsay story. She had a lot of positives to her game, but also, in my opinion, one glaring negative
Mm.
that ended up being, in my opinion, her ultimate undoing. So,
Oh, for sure.
all right, moving on to our final four. Uh, you know, at this point, no more real tribal councils, no more real votes. So. Because the producers still think it's a good twist, we're still doing the fire making challenge, and so all that matters is who is really good at making fire and who is going to win this final immunity challenge.
Yeah. And Jeff was like, "We've been doing this since season 35." I was like, "Don't say that like it's a good thing, Jeff. This
Hmm.
is like it's been a blight on the show since season 35."
Yeah, we're closing in on 10 seasons of doing this dog shit twist.
Mm-hmm. Like epic, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, this I love this as a final immunity challenge because it really doesn't favor anybody. Like the only way you can prepare for this is if you built it at home and
Yep.
practice it. Otherwise, you're just going in blind to it. And I mean, it looks easy. It's clearly not. Ask Mike how easy it is.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, Romeo won. That's surprising. Like you said at the top of the show. I did not see that coming. I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that he was so proud of himself. Ultimately, as we would go on to see, he was a complete non-factor in the end game in terms of win equity. But it's good that he had this moment.
Yeah, 100%. It's also like I guess if we are like looking and searching for a positive from the fire making twist, right? It's it semi punishes you for allowing a goat to get into the end game
Mm-hmm.
because usually in the old school version of how a final four would work is like even if you win immunity like you have like marginally more power but in insofar as like you can force a tie if you want to but usually there's still kind of a collective, you know, target of like,
Mm.
oh, of the three people who aren't immune, this is the person who's the biggest Sherry threat, so we should all just vote them out
Mm.
because that just makes sense for all of us to do.
Right.
Um, so I guess the one positive is it can create a detriment to dragging a goat into the end game because if and when that goat wins the final immunity, you're basically like handing them an inordinate amount of power
Mm.
to make a decision that might end your game if you haven't put the work in socially with them.
Mm. Yeah, and it was kind of funny because it was just like, well, Romeo really has only worked with Marianne, so it's probably going to be these two.
Yeah.
Uh, and Mike was, he tried his best to dissuade Romeo, but it was, in my opinion, never going to work.
Hmm.
Um, I think all the confessionals of Romeo being like, I wonder what I'm going to do, or just lip service, being a good player for production. Um, and I think the most interesting part was how they portrayed Jonathan and as like a fire guru leading up to this whole season,
Hmm.
including this part, and like it showed Mike is not able to start a fire at all. And then we get to tribal council, and Mike killed it. He really did.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the fire making challenge as like a challenge? Like how skill testing do you think it is?
I think here's the thing. I think for future players, do not practice in a coconut shell because you
Hmm.
don't have one. And what was happening to Jonathan was he was getting the magnesium under the coconut husk and it was igniting under it and like exploding out. I just
Yeah.
bumped my mic, my apologies. But then not catching it. So you need to like practice on a flat surface like that. That to me is the really only like piece of advice I can give from seeing it because it looked like Jonathan was practicing in a coconut shell, which was obviously containing
Hmm.
everything. The magnesium would light. It didn't have like anywhere to go out, so it would just go up and
Hmm.
catch the coconut husk. That's what I think screwed Jonathan over. Granted, I guess you should try to get the magnesium throughout the coconut husk, not have it on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am decent at making fire with flint. I don't know how I would do in a pressure situation like that, of course. But yeah, that's all I can really say for that.
Yeah, I think it's you want to try to make the coconut husk into like a
Like a
kind of
bird
a
nest.
pocket.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a bird nest with like a pocket, and then get the magnesium
yeah,
flakes into that pocket, and then ignite them, and then they're basically like there's nowhere for them to go other than to light the coconut husk on fire.
yeah,
So
yeah. Because this is just going all under it and like lighting up, like cool. But yeah.
I do think that Mike took a very high risk approach
Mm-hmm.
too by like adding all of his kindling and coconut husks like immediately to the point where like if that fire does go out, he's
You're,
kind of like
you're done.
SOL.
Yeah.
But it does
Agreed.
make it yeah, it does make it so that like if the fire maintains and you can grow it, it's just gonna go up into an inferno. So
Yeah, and I also think like it. In my opinion, it shouldn't be like you shouldn't be so concerned about getting the fire as fast as possible as much as once you have the fire building it. And obviously Mike took a different approach and it worked. Like you said, he
mhm,
built it. But I think like there is still like if you're like calm and you just build the fire and then you like build it up and then you like TP it with the sticks, it's
mhm.
also a decent way to do it.
Yeah, no, I think I think that's the classical way to like approach the challenge, and Mike just
Mm,
took like a very high risk, high reward
yeah.
uh, way to play it, and it paid off. Which maybe is correct against somebody like Jonathan, who you would expect to be very consistent
Mm,
in terms of like efficiency. So
yeah. And it looks like he kind of panicked when it wasn't working at first.
yeah,
And that threw him real bad.
yeah, that's all we have to say. That's like the the strategy is pretty straightforward, honestly. Not a lot of not a lot of very complicated strategy in this episode in particular.
No. Listen, there's one time this twist was somewhat exciting, and it was when Chris Underwood gave up immunity. And unless you're going to do that, I'm not half paying attention to this segment
Yep.
of the finale.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And with Chris Underwood is a very unique circumstance that's probably never correct ever again.
Right. Yeah.
So,
It was also interesting when Dom floated the idea of doing it on Ghost Island,
yeah.
but ultimately decided not to.
Yeah. Well, maybe I guess you can have an argument of whether it was.
I think
correct, but
the argument is you're going to win if you knock the other person out.
yeah.
And you're not going to win probably if he's there or she's there.
Well,
So, well, no, but I mean, like,
yes,
if it's like 100% you win versus like you're only 50% or less sure that you can beat them, then it might be worth doing.
Mhm.
In my opinion. I mean, certainly if other people can be like, well, I feel like I'd be better at swaying the jury. I think it's like it's a bold move and an interesting one and better for television. But Romeo had no chance to win no matter what, so him doing it didn't matter.
Yeah, I think another one that people might bring up is Winners at War, where maybe it's correct for Natalie to face Tony herself rather than putting him against Sarah. Eh.
Yeah,
And
Rob
that's also
said
very similar.
that was that was the plan. Everyone out there on Edge of Extinction said that you had to do that, and then she didn't do that. Who knows how much that affected people's, she's still got a few votes anyway, so I don't think everyone was 100% bought in on the idea. But
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, again, you're basically weighing whether you think you're better at fire making than, or Natalie's weighing whether she thinks she's better at fire making than Sarah, right? Because if she thinks that Sarah is better than her, then it's not even strategically correct to do that. So I don't know.
And it's also, I don't think Sarah's drawing dead at the final three if she makes it there, anyways. So
no.
Natalie still may have lost to Sarah. We don't know, but I digress. It's a bad twist. Please stop doing it, Jeff Probst. Please. I know you won't. Even if you listen to this, you'll keep doing it because you love it.
What are your thoughts? Do you think that Jonathan being the one to get taken out here will change any of the calculus for the producers? We talked about it being if Marianne. It's hypothetical.
No, I don't think so. I think they like it. I think they honestly got they got the result they wanted the first time with it, obviously, and then they got the upper level best potential in terms of entertainment with Chris doing it. Now it's just kind of there, and I don't see them going away from it. Like the final three. I mean, they've gone away from the final three, twice since they implemented it, but those are very different circumstances, which I don't see them doing. I mean, if they didn't make Survivor 41 a back to basics season, I doubt they're gonna make another back to basics season ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's probably just we probably just have to accept that it's here to stay permanently, no matter what comes happen. Even though this was kind of a strategically interesting season all the way through, and then the finale was it wasn't a bad episode, but it wasn't strategically interesting.
Right.
It was pretty boilerplate. So
yeah, this is all despite Tokenshien's and Kagayan being two top tier seasons in my opinion. So
yeah,
I don't know
with
what
very
they're
compelling
doing.
end games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if that didn't either of those get them to switch back, they're just not going to.
Yep. All right. This is it. I guess this is our final three.
Yeah. So obviously, hey, as much as I hate the fire making, I do enjoy the discussions format. I do kind of miss the pageantry of people going up and delivering speeches to them, but I do think if I was on a jury, I would appreciate an open forum to discuss everything more than more than just me going up there and like giving a spiel of why I think someone should win or ask like a question that only gets like a little bit of, you know, a little bit of an answer to a bigger story of what the players did, you know.
Yeah, I just they previously they did or Jeff had them do outwit, outplay, outlast, right?
Yeah, and
And
they
that
did it
was
this time.
confusing.
Yeah.
I think that was too confusing for people. So
Mm.
it got changed to now it's like physical, social, and strategic elements of the game, um, which okay, I guess. I still don't really love the. I especially hate Widow Play Out Last because I think it's just a slogan. It doesn't really have
Yeah.
anything to do with Survivor. But like even the social, physical, strategic elements, which is kind of what gets loosely equated to the slogan, uh,
Mm.
like not all of those are important, and also like social and strategic are like super intertwined.
Hmm.
So like I feel like it's kind of you kind of lose a lot of the nuance I feel in the discussion by forcing it to follow this kind of rubric. Like the
Yeah.
open
No.
discussion I think in general is fine, but
Yeah. Maybe they could like merge the two of like each person gets like a question that everyone else can then
yeah.
build off of rather than trying to pigeonhole into these weird things.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that like for instance Tori's question kind of set the stage for the tribal council, and the discussion that came out of that question was really good. And like kind of it like that was the point to me where I was like, okay, well, okay, I was basically 100% sure that Marianne was going to win. It was just like how close does Mike come in terms of coming in second, basically.
Right.
But that was the point where I was like, oh, maybe this could be a tie where Marianne wins in the tiebreaker with Romeo. To oh, Mike might just not even get a single vote.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely like had convinced myself coming in that Mike was going to do what he did, which
Yeah.
was not own his
Oh
game.
yeah.
So when it started to go that way, I was just like, "Yep, of
Yeah.
course, he can't do this."
It's heavily telegraphed.
Yeah, like it was just so like, of course, like he's not the type of guy to even like lie, and to his own benefit. He is the type of guy who like probably not even see himself as being a snake, and then even when he felt like the tide turning, he didn't like lean into that and be like, "Oh, actually, that was my secret strategy all along." You know?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously like sometimes owning things in the end still doesn't, win you the respect. Like even if you just come out and say, "Hey, I was a snake. I
Mm-hmm.
lied to everybody." That's, a survivor, get over it, right? Like some
Oh,
people
I
are
know.
still gonna, some people still aren't gonna, necessarily react positively to that. But that's still a much better tack to take than like trying to deny the fact that
I
you did.
it's the coach South Pacific move.
Yeah, that's
Like,
like the yeah. This
yeah,
was high key Coach and Sophie 2.0. High key.
yeah. So not great from Mike. Very good from Marianne. I thought she did pretty much as well as you can do in one of these final tribal councils.
Yep.
Nothing she said like came off, condescending or made her really look bad. She was very honest of her shortcomings and kind of reworked them in ways to make them almost seem like strengths, which I think what you have to do, including what I talked about earlier, where she said that her biggest like obstacle at the end was her own like propensity to self sabotage, but she managed to not do that, and then she whipped out her hidden immunity item and was like, I didn't even tell any of you about this. I'm the only person who can keep my fucking mouth shut on this goddamn season. So
Yep.
and everyone was like, "Oh shit! All right, love it." So she did great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was obviously like the moment of the tribal council
Yeah,
where like you could definitely see like at least one or two jury members like be like, "Oh, I'm locked in now."
yeah, and I mean, Jonathan voted for Mike. I think not surprising, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think we would have guessed that that was the person who did it. Even though he didn't show the votes right after, it was so fucking annoying. You got like months to edit it. The thing isn't even live, and you don't have that queued up to go. But whatever, fine. I have to look it on Survivor Wiki the next morning. It's whatever. I actually watched the reunion show this time. It was fine. I still like. You're not gonna get that much out of the final three players like 2 seconds after the game's over. So they could at least take a day or two. I feel to like. I also feel like if I was in the final three, win or lose, my main thought would be like, I need to take a fucking shower. It's been 26 days. I need to not feel gross. So like, still be sitting there and be like, okay, can we let's wrap this up? Like, yeah, pizza champagne's great, but Jesus.
Yeah, I don't love it. Like it's yeah, I don't like it at all really. Like reading the votes there is fine, right? I think that's fine. Well, even Borneo season 1, where they did also read the votes live on the island, they still had like a reunion afterwards. So I don't know. I feel like you're not really gonna get as interesting of a conversation when people haven't had the opportunity to watch the season back as well. So,
Also, like, what insight can those three give? Like, so what do you think was your thing that really wanted? Like, I don't know. Clearly, whatever I did worked though, or didn't work, depending on who you are. And then the other people have to just sit there like, damn, I just lost $1 million. This is fun.
yeah,
This is great.
Yeah. I guess the one positive to it is when Jeff does the, hypotheticals that he likes to do at the reunions. It's probably more accurate
Oh,
than
definitely.
from a live reunion,
Yeah.
where it's like months later and they've seen the show and they have like audience opinion biasing them and stuff like that.
They know how
Yeah.
Twitter feels and what the right
Yeah.
answer is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that probably makes it sting way worse for Mike, where he's like, oh, yeah, there were 5 people who were willing to vote for you if you had, not shot the bed so hard at your final tribal council.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's tough. Tough to have that in the moment. Also, do they get rid of the pre-jury people, or are they just also at Ponderosa? I feel like I've heard that at least on 41 they were still there. So why not just bring them out? Also, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a weird sequestering thing from a COVID perspective or what, but like because usually there's the on previous seasons before 41 they would send a pre-jury on a trip, but I don't know if that's the case or if they're just like on like a yacht somewhere in the middle of the ocean, like
Cochrane is there,
yeah,
and
I don't know. It's unclear. I don't know why. I assume there has to be a good reason why the free jurors aren't there, because I can't imagine it, if it were easy for them to be there, I can't imagine them just not having them there.
I know.
So,
Yeah, there's definitely a reason. I don't understand it though.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, not really much else to say. Obviously, historic win for Marianne. I want to get this right. The 5th African American winner, right?
Well, she's Canadian, so let's just say 5th black winner, I think.
Black
right?
winner, yes.
Yeah.
So 5th black winner. Most
Right?
recent
Yeah.
before that was Wendell. Only second black woman. And
Yep.
it was 20 years. That's insane.
Yep. 2002. Ryan Marquesa, season 4, Sepia Robinson, beat Towery.
And I think it just goes to show like how successful and like important this like move to change how they cast these shows has gone. I mean, I like we've had what 4 POC winners out of like 6 of these seasons since the move with
With Big Brother, you mean?
with Big Brother and BB Can and BB US plus Survivor. I think it's great. I think it's great for the game. I think it will help the show because it will attract more people to watch, and I mean, we've gotten some really great players that we may not have gotten otherwise. So, you know, I just feel
Yeah.
like this season was really good. I just feel like very positive about Survivor going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this season definitely exceeded my expectations coming in. I was on the lower end from my audience reaction to 41.
Mm,
I think other people liked 41 more than me and probably you as well, Ryan.
I didn't love
Um,
41. Yeah.
yeah, so I was pretty happy. I have very little negative to say about the season start to finish. Like
Mm,
obviously some of the twists still irk me,
yeah. Yeah.
but they weren't as bad as they could have been in terms of outcome. Yeah, cast was great, gameplay was great, great winner, a very unique winner in terms of archetype. Usually, like there's not really a winner that you can compare to Marianne.
No, she is one of one for sure.
Yeah, it's not really a player you can
No.
compare to Marianne.
Yeah,
So
I didn't like I if you'd asked me after the first episode, she would have been one of the people who was like, okay, well, there's no way Marianne's gonna win. Like,
mhm.
and she impressed the hell out of me, and she really came into her own.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, obviously, if we're looking at stats as well, we have this is the second season, or technically the third season, but the second season where they were actively casting Canadian players, and the second of two where Canadian wins. Spoiler alert, we can skip forward like 45 seconds if you don't want to hear cast spoilers for 43, but there are no Canadians on the season 43 cast.
Really? Oh
Possibly
my
they're like,
god.
okay,
Jeff
Canadians are
was like,
taking over
enough.
our
Yeah,
American show.
this is
So
enough. No way.
yeah, so yeah, very interesting. In terms of talking about like people of color winning these shows, I believe this is the first time where we've had two consecutive women of color winning
Mm,
Survivor, which again unlikely to have been the case if not for casting trying to move towards a more racially diverse cast. So
yeah, this is what like the first time since Kim
and Denise,
and
yep,
Denise. That two
two
women.
consecutive women.
Yeah, we had three in a row,
Yeah, three there. Yeah, with Sophie
and
as
then
well.
all we got was Sarah and Michelle after that, and then just like a bunch of dudes. No,
Hmm.
Natalie too. Natalie too. Sorry.
Yeah, Natalie as well.
How can I fucking forget? One of my favorite players. That's rude. But yeah, no, this is great. I mean, I'm glad that, like, for a long time, Survivor was making a lot of changes that really, really favored men, and I'm glad that the game's kind of evened back out toward. I don't know if it necessarily favors women, but it doesn't like seem to go too much toward one gender right now.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at like the this cast, like it was pretty even from a gender split most of the way through. Obviously, at the final four, it ends up being Marianne and three men, but like uh, for the most part, like the fake merge, it was six men and six women, and then like much of the way through, it remained somewhat balanced with like men kind of having slightly more at some points, but yeah, um, definitely we're. I think we're potentially at a point where we're probably not going to get what was it, six male winners.
Yeah, I would doubt that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, which is like just statistically super improbable. The point where you kind of have to like introspect a little bit, like, hmm, maybe the game is unfairly favoring men at this point a little bit.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, I don't have much else to add. The preview for 43 looked good. A little disappointed that it's three tribes again, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that at this point with the shortened season, they are locked into a cast of 18. And like, we mentioned this last week, where I don't think they want to do two tribes of nine from a gender balance perspective.
Yeah, I guess like I just would very much at least like a swap in 43. Like a
Yeah,
tribe being dissolved
yeah.
and going into two. I think that'd be good. I mean, I think that works out well in the other 3 tribe seasons they've done, where they did do the swaps. I can't think of any time when it was too bad, and they've done it a bunch of different ways. You know, splitting a tribe 2-2, splitting a tribe 1-1, straight up swapping. Like there's a lot of interesting things you can do with it.
Yeah, I think if we're merging at 12, or if we're merging at 12, because I don't know if they'll do I doubt they'll do the hourglass twist again in 43. They'll probably have some other stupid way to do a fake merge. But
Yeah.
if we're like at least fake merging at 12, I think like 3 rounds in the 3 tribe format and 3 rounds in a 2 tribe format makes sense. Where they could do like an Exile Island style situation, like a Julius Sokolowski, situation where they collapse the 2 tribes and one person is left out and joins the winning or the losing tribe or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, I think that'd be fine. They've done that a bunch of times, like throughout the history of the show. So I don't think it'd be too much of a weird thing to have happen here.
Yeah, or they could, 16-person cast? Question mark. I don't mind
basic season.
16-person
Let's
cast.
do it.
Yeah.
I guess they get worried about Medivacs ruining the cycle, but it is what it is. I don't know. Like that's the thing. The want 18 in case someone gets Medivaced, and then they can still keep the cycle, and then if no one does, they can double boot at some point. But I would love 16-person season. But we'll see.
Yeah.
If it ever happens.
100%. I don't know.
Like I think what they want is every episode to have a tribal council, which you obviously can't do in that format if someone gets medevaced. But I don't think the episodes that end with a medevac as the only elimination are too terrible.
I think there are arguably some top tier episodes of Survivor that end that have.
Yeah. So.
I'm looking at like the Bruce medevac in Panama, which is I would say a top 3 or 4 episode of that season, in my opinion.
Even Joe and Token Jeans, that was like an interesting thing that I think kind of ended up helping his tribe mates get their way into the actual alliance. Yeah.
Or the following season, the Russell Swan medevac episode, thought was obviously scary from a health perspective for him.
Scary.
But in terms of an episode of Survivor, I thought it was still perfectly fine. So I don't know. I think they kind of get in their own heads about this stuff a little bit too much from a production perspective.
No, so. I think the only bad thing that I've seen in formats that I didn't like is having an episode end with no elimination. That's the only time you can go wrong with Survivor.
They, at the very least, learned from last season on that in terms of the hourglass twist. Like, obviously we memed on the Applebee's being the big change that they made. But the actual big change they made to improve that twist from a viewer perspective was putting both episodes in one night instead of ending on this weird cliffhanger where everyone knew that Erica smashed the hourglass because it was the only rational thing to do.
Yeah. I'll never forget how upset young Brian was during Exile Island when the first Final Four episode ended without someone being voted off.
Yeah.
Just Aris and Suri on a yacht. I was like, why did I watch this episode? What is the point? But, I don't want to get too lost in the sauce, as I'm, want to do at times here. Just go on. No one wants to hear about Brian's childhood of watching Survivor.
Yeah. That's kind of it, right? Pointless to be continued episodes, awful, right?
Yep.
Episodes that unfortunately end in a medevac and don't have a tribal council, usually fine.
Right.
That's it.
Definitely. All right, anything else you want
to... No, I guess, we saw the season 43 preview. I don't know if you've looked over the leaked cast at all, but
I did. It's hard. It's just like, yep, those are people.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. They're definitely people. I don't know. Anything stand out from you, I guess, from the preview?
Um, I mean, a few players, like there's a girl with the rainbow hair. That's interesting. There was the doctor who looks like he could be like a hillbilly, but then he is talking and he seems like it's just against the stereotype of how he dresses, I guess.
Yep.
And there's a guy who looks like Zach Rance, very excited. Seems to have a similar personality. Ben, you know how much I love Zach on PB16, so I'm very excited for Survivor version of Zach.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that based off of the confessional we saw in the preview, he's probably 20 years old. I'd have to double
Yeah.
check that. So, because he said that he wants to be the youngest Survivor winner,
Mm,
and the youngest Survivor winner currently was 21. So,
mm,
presumably he's younger than that. I didn't double check on the cast leak to see
yeah.
how old exactly he is, but 20 at the oldest, I would assume.
Yeah, he's he definitely is gonna bring a immaturity. It seems like a broish,
Yeah.
which is why they cast him, obviously, and I think it should be fun. So
Yep.
looking forward to Zach Rance 2.0.
Yeah, we have another therapist who's going to talk about how being a therapist helps you be a manipulator, which is
Mm-hmm.
always great.
Yep, very much the definition of the law of diminishing returns with this. Denise crushed it, perfect score in her season, and then it's never really quite worked that well
Mhm.
since.
Yeah, definitely. Nick Macaroni.
Yeah, that was real bad.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I liked the woman with the nose piercing,
Mm.
with the septum piercing.
Mm.
You know, she
I can't
she
imagine
has.
having that on the island. That's gonna get gross. Yeah,
I
really
mean,
gross.
I think a lot of you can say that about probably most body models in terms of
True. Yeah.
yeah, or like piercings. But yeah, I mean, she definitely seemed like either somebody who's going to be completely inconsequential and like crash and burn early and be super forgotten, or somebody who's probably going to be a major player in the season.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm looking forward to it. I'm very high right now on Survivor, so also looking forward to the Have Not Room coming
Hmm.
soon, very soon. Right? When's Big Brother start next month around this time?
Yeah, probably about a month or so from now, we'll be cracking on me, you, and Chad for the Have Not Room for
Oh yeah.
BB24.
Dude, I love the first few weeks of Big Brother. Like, there's nothing better in reality television than the first few weeks of a new Big Brother season.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, look, I've been even on this podcast singing my praises of BB Can 10.
mm,
I stand by it. Like even with Time to Breathe, because obviously you're gonna be like, oh, a little bit of
it's
a
the
recency
best. Yeah.
bias. But even with Time to Breathe, I still think it's like top 5 to 10 reality TV seasons of all time, in my
Mm,
opinion. And so obviously, like, I'm not expecting BB24 to to live up to that.
right.
I'm just hoping for a good season. Like even like a BB Can 9 level of quality of season, I would be
Mm,
more than happy with.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I am a little bit worried because uh, apparently they were casting up until like 2 days ago.
Yep. I did
So
see that. I got an ad on Instagram for it, and
yep,
I was like, this is a sign. I'm not going to do it, though. No
yeah,
fucking way.
yeah. No, not this year for me either. Maybe next year. I'll try again. I my biggest thing right now is I don't want to go on and have it be a bad season. So
Haunted by B19. And, someone from that casting call getting on that season. Could
Mhm.
have been us, Ben, and that would have been real bad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've talked about that on the
Mm,
podcast before. Me and Brian applied for BB19, and Kevin Schleuber from that season was in our casting pool.
yeah.
Um, so, yeah, I also then applied for BB21, and
Oh, God,
luckily,
that would have been worse.
yeah, luckily it didn't like I. It's it's it feels odd for me to have applied for Big Brother twice and have been happy to have not been cast in either of those seasons, right?
Yeah,
Like
that would
that
have
just
been
doesn't
horrible.
really make me want to apply again.
Oh man. As again, the only other one I applied to was OTT and did not get any heat for that. So, and that was an incredible season with its issues, of course. Anyone else who watched that live, I'm pretty sure it's been erased from the internet now. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
other than that, I'm probably gonna in the off season check out this season of The Circle. I
I'm
haven't
so behind in
had a
Circle.
chance to do that yet. I'm excited for that. I'm gonna pray that they bring Australian Survivor back to Paramount Plus so I can finish the first season of that at some point, and then hopefully they'll bring BB Can 10 onto that service soon. I mean, the season's over, so what are you waiting for? Paramount Plus, get it on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if you're a Survivor fan who is like morbidly curious about Big Brother, uh, and you have access to watch BB Can 10 somehow, heavily recommend you do it in this off season. Uh, you know, uh, I would definitely wait and see in terms of BB24, but if you are going to watch BB24, Brian and I will be here covering it with Chad on the.
Yeah. It'll be good. I haven't talked to Chad, like, well, other than like a few messages online, but I haven't like talked to him through like video chat since the end of last season of Big Brother.
Well, yeah,
So,
since we pushed through Celebrity Big Brother season 3, which was horrifically bad, very bad. This spring was like fire for Survivor 42, fire for BB Can 10, and then CBB US 3 definitely the redhead stepchild of the room in terms of reality TV seasons. So.
yeah. I guess someone did a commentary. I got suggested here. Not like a Big Brother creator or anything, but just like a commentary channel is like this music star ruined his career on Celebrity Big Brother for Todrick, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch that, relive it a little bit.
Did he
But
though? Like,
I don't know.
I feel
I
like
don't
people
know.
forgot pretty quick and moved on.
I very much doubt many of the people who aren't super into Big Brother even know that he was on Celebrity Big Brother.
Yeah.
And, you know, not the most I've seen about or referencing him was the new Doctor Who had a scene on a show that he was in doing a lip sync to his song. So, yeah,
There
that
you
was
go.
fun. The song is fun. I won't lie. It's a
There you
very
go.
fun song. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to mention? It? Anything?
No, I'm surprised that this was like I guess I'm not surprised because like as we mentioned it was a pretty predictable finale
Mm,
and there wasn't really a lot of strategy to cover. Uh, you know, I'm pretty happy overall. I was happy with like a lot of the emotional content that was shown in the season. I think
mm,
that's something they should lean into more, and I think that's probably my favorite thing that they've kind of brought back uh, in terms of focus for 41 and 42, and
mm,
just like really doubling down on kind of telling the like emotional like life stories of the
mm.
players, like having people who are interesting be cast so that they can have interesting stories and
It's
you
always
know
good.
yeah so
I did forget, and this is not that consequential, but I liked that they did the edited in like the jury kind of
yep
giving vague
very old
things. I
school.
remember they did that. Yeah, they used to do that, right? Like,
Hmm.
I definitely remember Survivor Africa. They did it, and also well, I also just watched Survivor Africa again. But that felt cool and fresh, even though it's old. It's nice that it was brought back.
Yeah, I saw people saying like, "Oh, they brought that back," in response to the audience not understanding why Xander lost, even though it was kind of beat over their head a million times. And it's like, okay, we have to make sure that the audience understands why Mike lost. And so it was
Not
very
all of
kind
them
of
did, Ben. I've seen some Twitter and Facebook threads that there's some really dumb fucking people who watch Survivor. I don't know what else to say. Survivor like does a very good job of handing you on a silver platter what the storyline is, and
Mhm.
there's still some people who just completely miss it.
Yeah, I mean, look, as we mentioned, Mike's entire story, the whole season was just like kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth in terms of
Mm.
being like loyal and having integrity while doing the opposite repeatedly. And the jury, basically every single member of the jury, when speaking about Mike, was like, "Yeah, I really hope he owns his shit and doesn't try to like sidestep and pretend like he was, you know, so honorable and had so much integrity when he like backstabbed half of us very
Mm.
brutally and lied to us."
Yeah.
Um, and then he does exactly the opposite, and the result is as expected. So I don't really like if you don't understand why Mike lost at this point. Like Mike understands why Mike lost. I'm pretty sure Mike immediately understood why he lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like 20 seconds after the votes were read.
Yeah. Hey, it's
So
not good enough for Facebook. So
like if you can't follow it, like maybe Survivor is too complicated for your brain. I don't know.
I don't know what you could watch though if Survivor's too complicated at this point.
You have to
Um,
watch. You have to watch.
what's that other
Be
show they kept?
positive.
Be positive. No, that got
I don't.
canceled.
Yeah.
What's the Beyond the Edge? Is
Oh
that the
yeah.
one that's your speed? I s-
Yeah.
um, I watched 5 minutes of it last week because it was the finale, and it ended up coming down to Colton Underwood, the guy who came out very good, very happy. Also has a restraining order against him from an ex-girlfriend for stalking. Not good. Not ever mentioned, though, with him. And came down to him versus Ray Lewis. And it was like trying to build up, like, oh, such an underdog story. This regular person versus Ray Lewis. And Ray Lewis in it is like, yeah, you're like 20 years younger than me, though. And it's a physical competition.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's a good point.
So are we spoiling it? Did Colton win?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you
Well,
go.
I mean, I got that spoiled way before the show came out.
Oh, okay.
Just through like so, I assume it was accurate that he did still win.
Okay.
That show looked terrible. Great location though. Love Palau.
Yeah.
Wish Survivor would go back there. But
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't like the challenges are the worst part of Survivor in my opinion, on average. So I don't
agreed.
know.
Agreed.
I know that there are like people on Facebook who like the challenges they don't really care about. That's why they were upset that Jonathan was eliminated for losing a challenge. Actually, losing two challenges.
Got two chances to be a challenge beast and
So
couldn't do it. So
yeah, like I don't. 'Cause I know you sent me the an example of somebody who was upset that Jonathan lost, uh, which is bizarre to me because well, despite the fact that that person didn't understand that Romeo was gay, uh,
yeah, that was
and
so
and,
good.
and thought that Romeo was just hooking up with Marianne, which is a wild take. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't really want to go into any more further detail on. Um, a person like that exists in the world. But the idea that Jonathan, is probably the most deserving person to have lost this season, right? Like his entire game was being good in challenges, and he had two opportunities to win a challenge to guarantee himself in the top three, and didn't. So what's the problem?
I don't know, Ben. If anything, the last like 5, 6 years have taught me that people just crave having a daddy to look to, and Jonathan is a daddy. He is the definition of daddy to some people, and I feel like it's whether or not they realize it or not, everyone just needs to have their daddy, and that's all I
Yeah,
can come up with.
yeah. I think that the big takeaway here is if you're angrier at a player losing than the player is in the
Mhm.
moment as they're losing, you probably have to reevaluate a few things.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan wasn't mad. He was more just disappointed in himself.
Yeah.
like, and understandably so. He probably was like, well, this is made for me to get to the final three with these two challenges, and he lost. So
Yeah, I was bracing for another Xander situation in terms
yeah,
of like people not understanding why Jonathan would have definitely lost a jury vote, and we didn't even get that, and people just like to be upset at the person they jerk off to losing. I guess I don't know.
what can you do?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. Whatever. Go watch the fucking challenge, guys. He's gonna
Yeah,
be on. Apparently, there are two versions of the challenge happening. One on MTV, one on CBS now. That's confusing. Don't know which one Jonathan's gonna be on.
I think CBS.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But then there are also CBS players who are going to be on the MTV
Look,
challenge. I don't know.
I don't understand. I've tried and failed to get into the challenge multiple times. It's not for
Well,
me.
it's the same thing you just said. The worst part of these games are
Yeah.
the challenges, and it's a game entirely based around the challenges.
Yep.
So, and then the other part of it is just like the kind of worst part of reality TV, which is people getting drunk and yelling at each other. You know,
Hmm.
it can be
Yeah.
fun if there's like a few moments like that, like BB10. That's fun. But like the drama's coming through like the strategy, whereas a lot of it seems to be very personal. Um, like Fessy got eliminated last season because he like pushed Josh. Now both of them are on the next season again. I don't know if that's a good call by MTV, but it's clear to me what they're going for.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they'll stop until somebody gets their clock knocked off and they end up in the hospital.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.
But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. We've gone on a million tangents to make sure that we break an hour here on the podcast. Uh,
One day it's gonna be a good thing for advertisers to see that we always go over an hour. So
sure. I guess that's pretty much it. You want to shout out your social media?
yeah, definitely. So you can follow me on Twitter at the fake BMAR. That's BMARR. I'm also, very frequently uploading on our other channel, Wicked Good Sports. There's also a website blog, which is wickedgoodeverythingsports.com. Anything else? Yeah, go to Last of the Good Ones. We uploaded a video for the first time in 3 years on that. Very weird video. Hope you enjoy it. If Dylan was here, he would be hyping me up because we're pretty much just making it for Dylan at this point. As we've completely flagrantly ignored that channel other than uploading those types of videos. I don't know. We'll try to work something out for Dylan eating the spicy ghost pepper thing to atone for Rockshore not winning. We'll see. I told him he does not have to do it, so it's not like he didn't show up to this on purpose. He just had other obligations, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and keep in mind his winner pick still went further than both of ours, and he will be picking first in the next season. So
He did win our draft, yes.
yeah, so I don't know. It's whatever. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ben Sharon, channel on Twitter at WG Everything, and then the main channel on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube at Wicked Good Everything. The podcast channel Better Radio, and this is the Blindsiders on all major podcasting platforms. As mentioned before, Brian and I will be back in about a month with our good friend and co-host Chad to cover BB24 on the Half Dot Room, and then me, Brian, and Dylan will be back again in the fall to cover Survivor 43. Until then, have a good one.